FS5.5e elliptical trainer assembly instructions. First thing you want to do is cut the straps off, flip the box over, pull the box off the top of the machine, and then take all the foam and plastic off the parts. Assembly step number 1, we're going to put the incline rail assembly in place. That's held in place by 4 bolts and washers that go vertical, that go straight down, and then it's held on with 2 bolts and a nut that go in from the side. We want to be sure that our 2 cables are completely plugged in securely, and then we're going to make sure that all 6 of these bolts are nice and tight. The next thing we're going to do is put the wire harness inside the console mast and then put the mast in place. There is a twist tie, a long zip tie that is run inside the console mast. You want to be sure and just wrap that around the end of the harness and then pull it through. And then there are 3 bolts that need to be inserted, and there's already 1 bolt in place in the mast. All 4 need to be extremely tight. These are the biggest bolts on the machine, and they need to be very tight or there can be some play on that mast. Then we're going to plug in the console. There are 4 harnesses to plug in, a big wire harness, 2 hand pulse harnesses, and 1 4-pin harness that needs to be plugged in. Feed all the extra wires into the console mast and then secure the console with the 4 screws that are provided. Assembly step number 2. First, we're going to put the left and the right plastic covers on the console mast over the shaft, and then we're going to use 6 screws to hold them together. Once those are all tight, we're going to put a wave washer on each shaft and then slide the correct arms into place, and then secure it with the hex head bolt and the flat washer, and then repeat the same process on the opposite side. Make certain that the wave washer is in place, and then slide the arm on and then tighten the bolts down. Assembly step number 3. We're going to be connecting the connecting arm and the swing arm. First thing you want to do is take the twist tie out of the end of that rod end bearing, and then we're going to put a bolt through the end of that and the end of the swing arm and tighten the nut on the opposite side. Want to be sure that this connection is very tight as well, because it can cause some noise. And repeat the exact same process on the opposite side. You do want to make sure that the rod end sleeve is inside of that rod end bearing. If not, there will be a lot of slop there and a lot of play, and it will cause noise. Assembly step number 4. We're just going to be installing all the plastic parts. First thing we want to do is start with the back of the incline rail assembly. There are 2 Z brackets that need to be installed, 1 on each side. And they're held in place by 2 bolts, and you want to go ahead and start the screw that goes into the end of that. Then put the front rear stabilizer cover in place and tighten it down with the 2 screws. And then put the back rear stabilizer cover in place, and it has 2 screws that go in the top. You want to tighten those down, and then the screw on each side needs to be tightened down as well. Next, we're going to be putting on the slide wheel covers. Each one of those covers are held in place with 2 Phillips head screws. Next, we're going to install the middle incline cover. You want to make sure that your two harnesses are plugged in before we put this cover on. Then we're going to install the middle stabilizer covers. There's one on each side. It's just they're held on with one screw each. Next we're going to install the connecting arm covers. There are two Phillips head bolts that hold each cover on, and then there's a third sheet metal screw that goes in those covers to hold them together. Repeat the exact same process on the opposite side. You will need to use the shorter Phillips head screwdriver to get a couple of these screws in. Next we're going to install the swing arm covers. There's two covers for each side. Each side has three Phillips head sheet metal screws that hold these covers together. Just repeat the same process on each side. You do want to make sure that you have the correct covers for the correct side.